Citizen Kane and a zillion of the
Oh,
best movies ever. And I had a sore throat. My eyes were watering and nose was running and all that. And I am admittedly a golf addict. And I'm embarrassed, but I love this game. Anyway, um, so I qualified for the state championships, but I couldn't see very well and I couldn't breathe. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to play worth crap. So I went to my ENT and she did a bunch of allergy tests and said, Lee, she thought it was hilarious. Do you know what you're allergic to? I said, no, that's why I'm here. She goes, grass.
no way.
I said, grass. And she thought that was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. My wife thought it was divine intervention to punish me for all those days where I spent golfing instead of being with her. Anyway, she then goes, can I do one more test? No, I got to get back to the studio. She goes, one more, it'll only take a couple minutes, which is never true. I
Right.
love this woman. Anyway, and it's called an endoscopy. Is that right? Where they put the thing up your nose and, or is that a
Yep.
colonoscopy? No,
No,
endoscopy.
colonoscopy is the other way. This
Oh,
is,
yes, right.
I've had those. No.
That's right. So she puts this thing up my nose, and it's right next to me. She's looking at the screen, and she goes, "You want to look down your?" No, I've seen my insides in the hospital. No. So she's looking around, poking around, and there's a camera in there, and all of a sudden she goes, oh, like a deep intake of breath. I look at her, and her face has gone pale, and she goes, "Lee, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you have throat cancer." And I said, okay, grass is funny.
Yeah.
Throat cancer is not. Don't make jokes. She goes, I'm not joking. I can see the tumor. It's right there at the base of your
Didn't
tongue.
you smoke?
Never want, well, never tobacco.
Wow.
Okay, I lived in the 60s and 70s. Okay, so, but I was a professional tennis player, world-class tennis player. I
Right.
never smoked I never have had a cigarette in my life. Never drank, never smoked. Um, Marathon runner,
Yes.
eat veggies. And I said, why? She goes, bad luck.
Wow. Wow.
So listen to this. Now, this is a woman who's busy every minute of every day,
Yes.
runs a big practice, 25 doctors, blah, 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 blah. She goes, tell you what, call your wife. She was across the street at Sony Studios. Call your wife. She was working. Get her over here. I'm going to cancel my next 2 hours of appointments, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this. My wife came over. Now, I'm planning my funeral because everybody I know, my mom, my dad, my granny, my grandpa,
Oh
all
yeah.
died of cancer. So I'm thinking I'm dead. Who's
Yeah.
going to deliver my eulogy? And she spends 2 hours answering every question. I had zero. My wife had 9,000. We get up to leave, and at the door, she hands me her business card.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a patient of yours for 20 years. Why you give me your business card? And I looked at it, and on it, she had written her home phone number. And she said, Lee, Erica, anytime for anything, you feel free to call me. I am here for you. And then she gave us both a kiss. So,
So we're talking about compassion, caring, and the lack of passion and caring that has grown on more and more. But you're telling a story right now where you had compassion and caring at the highest degree.
yep, yep. And it took me from, okay, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I got somebody to play the piano, I'm thinking. I got somebody to do
Yeah.
a great eulogy. But as we left, her kindness, her caring, her sensitivity, her love gave me this much hope, which is 100% more than I had before, we went through this whole 2 hour process. Now, Had 3 months of chemo. I had 36 straight days of radiation to the base of my tongue. I was in excruciating pain, had unlimited amounts of fentanyl to dull the pain. Um, and towards very end of my treatment, I was hospitalized for an unidentifiable septic infection. Now, I have no immune system.
Right.
That's what cancer treatment does. Shuts it down and then kills the cells and then blah, 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 blah. So I was more likely to die of the infection than I was of the cancer. And if ever I needed simple human kindness like what I got from my ENT,
Oh,
it was then. And I got zero. These were the most insensitive, unkind, cruel, mean, ignorant humans on the face of the planet. And here's the deal. When I put my life in your hands, I literally am giving you the most precious thing I own. And
yes.
when you don't think enough of me to simply be kind, aka compassion, then I must be the problem and not be worth it, and the world would be a better place without me. And I
So
decided,
your beginning story of great care to really poor care
oh no,
supports the
not poor,
illustration.
horrific, horrific.
Yeah, but that supports the study that 50% of people no longer feel medical care is compassionate, caring.
Yep.
Like your first story, you just told us black and white, the good and the bad, the horrendous, and it totally supports what the world feels. How can we fix it? That's your mission. Your mission is to change this now.
Yes. Well, so to that end, while I was in that hospital, the day after I had made that decision, I needed to find out how many fentanyl patches to put on so that my family, it would look like uh, an accident rather than suicide because they couldn't collect on this key man life insurance policy I had at the studio. So I thought I'm going to at least leave them a good gift, even if I'm a piece of crap. So my buddy came to visit, and doctor, maybe you even know him, Dr. Dean Adele.
I've heard the name. Yes, I have.
Yeah, well, he was America's doctor before he sold the name to what's his face for $1 million. Anyway, he came to visit, and it was excruciating to talk, but I croaked out what I had experienced there and intimated that I wanted to end my life. And he put his hand on my arm. Human touch is so comforting. Put his hand on my arm. Even though he had nothing to do with it, he apologized for the lack of compassion, he said, I had experienced in that hospital, and then politely said, may I make a suggestion, Lee? Sure, Dean. He goes, how about this? How about you fight your butt off and see if you can live? And if you're lucky enough to do that, how about you spend the rest of your life trying to reverse the rapid disappearance of compassion in modern medicine and bring it back to the forefront as it must be.
Wow. And that's
And
the
that
birth
saved my
of
life.
Compassion Heals Movement, right? That's
Yep,
the birth.
yep, and yep. And since then, I've done 250 keynotes around the world, written a book on the subject. I've done every one of my keynotes in my patient's gown, which has been all over the world. I actually wore this during my radiation treatments. But I want people, healthcare professionals in my audience to remember I'm the patient. Yes. I'm the guy paying their bills. I'm the guy who's looking at them to save my life, whether it's a cold or cancer. And to do that, here's the science. It's absolutely, unquestionably true. For the best, quickest outcomes in long-term health, you must have competency and compassion. Not one or the other, both. And that's what I'm fighting to do. And, so I've been doing that a long time. I've spoken to a zillion audiences, but now I'm producing, going back to my movie producing background, to produce a documentary called Compassion Heals You, Me, the World,
Yes.
to reveal and reverse that exact situation you said, which is compassion's been disappearing consistently for 25 years. It's now
Yes.
down to 1 out of 2 patients get it. I need to let patients know that they need to get that. And if they don't overlook it. Get it or leave.
So this is partly now colliding with patients' rights that we've heard about.
Yes.
Patients have rights. It used to be we all knew we had rights, we all got along, but more and more it's become you're just a chart, you're just a number, move on. And the fast pace has taken that compassion away. So what can we, with patients' rights, be voicing and asking for today?
Well, first of all, for your own self is regardless of the magnitude of your reason for wanting healthcare, you must have both. It must be competent. Well, how are you going to figure that out? Go online and look them up. Look them up. Find out, what people say about them. I mean, people post all the time. And though, they need to treat you with kindness, with caring, with sensitivity. And that's not a factor of time. Compassion can be given and gotten in as little as 38 seconds. So when Dean put his hand on my arm, before he even spoke, I knew he cared deeply about me. And that took 2 seconds. So it's about reminding healthcare professionals that we must have it. And it's about reminding consumers, patients, you, me, that we must get it. And if we're not with the healthcare professionals we're using, go elsewhere. Go elsewhere.
Well, when I went through my liver transplant, the night I showed up.
Wow.
Oh yeah. There's a whole other story you and I haven't even talked about. But wow. I show up and they tell me, go upstairs. They're going to meet you in your room, blah, blah, blah. So the intake nurse comes in. She hands me a gown. My older brother's with me. He's doing the watch care, but I'm an ugly mess at this point.
Of course.
And she goes, take this gown, go in the bathroom, come back up, and I'll tell you the next step. Okay? And I'm smiling, I'm joking, I'm laughing. That's naturally who I am. I come back out, and she goes, now, she hands me this paper with an O-ring on it. This O-ring is going to go on your bum. She's British. So I want you to turn around. I'm going to be very nice, but I'm going to put this on your bum. So I just jokingly pull my gown around, pull back in wide open, and then she understands I'm a joker. I'm a playful person. She peels it off and slaps it on. She goes, I own your bum. And to me, that was compassion. She understood the playfulness nature, and I was going to be going through a horrendous transplant that I may not live through the night. And she started with 1 minute, one joke, and an emotional bond. And it took like 38 seconds. You're right, 38 seconds. Why don't we have that more often, Lee? Why don't we have the nurses, the doctors aware they can do that?
Here's the 2 reasons that are primary, and there are others. 1, healthcare professionals, the vast majority, got into healthcare to do one thing: to relieve the suffering of others.
Yep.
Okay? Now, that's a pretty amazing, I don't know about you, but yeah, let's go to the hospital. Let's deal with people in pain and they're bleeding and they're dying. Yeah, that sounds great. No. So I consider them to be my heroes. However, a significant majority of them care so much about others, they forget to care about themselves. And until every human is treated for whatever ails them in the world, they can't rest. They can't take it easy. They can't give themselves the compassion that they naturally give to their patients, and is why they got into medicine in the
So
first
the
place.
old story of the cup is, if the cup is empty, you have nothing to pour out. You have to go fill that cup. And with their long hours, multiple shifts, the
Yep.
speed rate, they don't have time to refill their cup. They don't have time to go play golf.
No, no. Sadly, they don't. And so what happens is they burn out. And two of the things that happen when you burn out is one, your competency goes down. Because when you're miserable, it's hard to focus. The other thing is that when you burn out, you make yourself emotionally numb so that you don't have to feel that massive buildup of pain and suffering that you get from giving your heart day after day, hour after hour, month after month.
And we've heard about that, and we've all experienced that. The numbness of the doctors. It's a shield. They don't want to get close and personal because they have to go home to their own wife and family, so they just keep the shields up.
Yeah, and it's not a matter of don't want to. They want to, but they are incapable when they're burned out. They literally are emotionally numb. And when you're numb, you don't feel them, and you've numbed yourself to survive. So it's not because they're bad people. Those people in that hospital weren't horrible people. They were all burned out. And so my heart, all of a sudden, now I have compassion for them. So when I'm in front of them in an audience, my final words to them at the end of my talk is, I just need you to know I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm alive today because of you. Thank you. Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. So please take care of yourselves so that you can take better care of us. So that's
So what's happened as you've peeled back the onion on this,
yeah,
and you're poking the bear on things that
yeah.
they're whispering out behind themselves, but now you're bringing it out in public. What's been the response of really bringing this forward?
Well, extremely positive on a one-to-one basis. Now, let's be clear, without naming names, there are healthcare organizations, medical groups, hospital groups, call them what you will, who are not interested in treating, curing, and comforting patients. They're interested in making a boatload of money no matter what. So they don't help their people take care of themselves, give them the time and space and support to do that. And more patients, less time, longer hours, which leads to burnout, which makes them incapable of being compassionate to themselves
Yes.
or to me. So those are the organizations that, we're producing this movie to reveal and
Yes.
reverse this thing. We're not going to name them, but you can go online and see who they are by reading their patient ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clear. So we want to shame them and their patients to say, if you're not getting competency, which you'll never know until you're dead.
Right. And
But
so you're under the knife.
Yeah, but compassion, you'll know if you get it. If you don't get it, go somewhere else. Leave that group. I don't care if you've been there for 30 years. Get out of there because it'll kill you.
Well,
so hopefully we'll pressure them by saying, we're going to see if we can't get our patients to leave if you don't start treating them right. And take care of your doctors, nurses, and administrators. Take care of them too so they can do the same for us.
well, during
That's the
COVID,
purpose
we
of the
heard people, the medical doctors, the nurses during COVID saying, we're doing triple shifts. We are fried to the gourd. We can't
Yep.
keep up with this.
Yep.
And they couldn't get more doctors, nurses to come in. So is that part of the problem too? We've lost the intake of new doctors.
Yeah. It's in 5 years, actually 4 years now, we won't have enough doctors and nurses to treat us. Who, who, not enough people want to go into healthcare. They talk to doctors and nurses, and they're all burned out, and they're all bummed out, and they're all sick and tired. And it's like, yeah, I want to get into that. Yeah. What? So kids aren't in the same numbers going into healthcare because they know that the way it is now, it's a misery for both the patients and the healthcare professionals.
So let's talk about the patients. What can we do proactively? I mean, me, I have a sense of humor. They said I was the funniest man dying in the hospital. Okay, that was my reputation.
I think that's a compliment. I'm not so sure.
But what can we do to set us up to communicate whatever to make it a more compassionate, joyful experience and encourage the doctors to break the glass? What can we do?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. One is investigate. Go online and investigate whether or not your hospital, your medical group, and the individual people who treat you, check out their ratings. Check them out.
What's a good rating? What's a good rating? What's a bad rating?
Well, but you'll see that. I mean, it'll say poor, okay, good, extraordinary, the best.
Okay.
It has that. That's explained once you look it up. Just Google how good is the care of Dr. Schwartz in Alabama, whatever.
Right.
And the same is true of your hospital. Every hospital is rated based on medical and care. It's called HCAPS, HCAPS score, HCAPHS.
Okay.
Check out their HCAPS score. If it's in the 60s or 70s, don't go there, ever. And if it's not in the 80s or 90s, you don't want to be there. It'll kill you. It'll literally kill you. So do your homework. And the second is, hang on. And the second is, you get what you give.
Yes.
You want compassion? That person, nurse, phlebotomist, person who's going to stick something on your butt, because of the work they do, is suffering terribly every minute they're on the job. Yes. They're surrounded by death. They're surrounded by injury and misery and grief. And oh my God, every minute of every day. You want to get compassion? Show compassion for them.
That's exactly why I'm asking the question. You have to participate in it.
Yes. It's a two-way street. You get what you give. Simple, scientific. Not every time. But if you want a shot, you're going to stay with that group or that person or that whatever. You have to give it to increase the likelihood of getting it. And if you give it regularly and not getting the return, get out of there.
Or in my case, I had an overnight male nurse that was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And the second night his shift was done, my mother came in to check this guy was doing that day, and I said, he's got to go. I said, he's got to go. He's not good for my health, my emotion. He has no compassion. He has no bedside manner. Here I am recovering from a liver transplant. I said, he's got to go. And my mom said, you're serious? I said, if you don't tell him, I will. But you're my advocate right now. You have to go tell him. She marched out there, talked to the head nurse, the one that was joking and laughing a couple of days before.
Yeah.
She made it very clear what I was looking for. She came in and says, I'm sorry, he's off your round tonight. Will not be in tonight. We'll have somebody else. So I want to encourage you as a patient to speak up and make these changes. It may be uncomfortable for you, but there are other people that want you to get the right care. And if it doesn't jive, you've got to speak up, right?
Geez, for what you're paying, for whatever it is. I mean, I went in the other day for a small injury to the ER, and it cost me $1,800.
Yes.
Like, and for that, I can't expect some politeness, some connection, some touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that we deserve that. If what the people in healthcare are meant to do, and they agree,
Mhm.
treat, cure, and comfort, according to Hippocrates. Those are your only three jobs. Treat, often, cure, sometimes, comfort, always. Always.
We have not talked about the relationship of that. I think there's a triangle: the doctor, the nurse combo, you, the patient, and then the compassion to the parents, caregivers, family. They got to do that too, and that's also where people get really upset. Was they blew me off, and I love my child, I love my wife. Can you give me some help? Speak to that for a second. How do we strengthen that relationship? They've got to give that other portion.
Well, you're lucky enough to have a family when you're in a medical crisis. Um, Thanks God. That presence alone is a major predictor of outcomes.
Yeah.
Do you have physical presence and support from family and friends? And if you do, the reason you do is because they want to help relieve your pain and they want to be compassionate to you, which is necessary for the best outcome. Great. And then they can also be your advocate.
Yes.
But it's critical, like you did. It's scary for a patient because a patient is so vulnerable. During that, you just had a liver frickin' transplant, and they can't treat you like a human being.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. Then to go, excuse me, but you need to. No, but if you have family and friends who can
Yes.
do it, now do it if you can. If you got the courage and no family and friends, speak up. And again, not to that person, get their boss.
Yes.
You know, you
Yes.
don't want to talk to your waiter. You want to talk to the, to the manager. And if that doesn't fix it, just get out of there as quickly as you humanly possibly can and never come back.
Now, I do want to mention your book. We threw it out there. You have Compassion Heals,
Yes,
Self-Care to Healthcare.
from self-care to healthcare. Yep.
Tell us about the book. What's the target?
Yeah.
Fill
Yeah,
in.
it is a summation of my medical life, which is ridiculous, that I'm still alive. But it's a summary of that, looking at it from a perspective of competency and compassion. So it is the reality of what I experienced,
Hmm.
the good parts all the way back, globally, my cancer treatment, which up until that time in that hospital was as good as a misery could be, the impact of that, and the science of why it's necessary, it's not arguable, it's not something, compassion is not something that you do if you feel like it, what the heck? No, no, no. Absolutely mandatory. So it explains the science, it explains my experience, it explains how compassion saved my life and prevented me from ending it and committing suicide. And it's about the work that I'm doing now to reveal and reverse the problem, which is now morphed into, because I'm thrilled to be 75, but how many more years do I have to get this message out there? So I want to get this documentary done to reveal the crisis, to educate patients and providers and healthcare institutions that we know what we need. You better give it to us. We're out of here.
So when is the documentary going to be completed, edited, set for release? Do you have any target dates?
It's going to be, we got a target is about a year from right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still in the process. We've secured the University of Wisconsin Center for Healthy Minds and all of their research.
Yes.
You might know them.
Yes.
Extraordinary research to prove the infinite power of compassion. We've also signed the Global Compassion Coalition, which is over 1 million people committed to bringing more compassion, not only into healthcare, but just to the world. They're helping us get this movie made and putting us in touch with the corporate sponsors we need to fund it and get it out there and shot.
So you call this a crisis.
Phew.
Can we reverse the crisis?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
convinced of that?
Oh, no. I'm not convinced. I'm 1,000% sure. Listen. When we were developing as human beings in the cavemen days, we didn't worry about fame and fortune. We just hoped we weren't going to get eaten by a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Okay?
Right.
So one night, a family looks over to the little group next to them, and one of their kids gets eaten by a Tyrannosaurus, which had just happened to him, to this fellow. So he goes over the next day and says, I noticed, I'm so sorry about your boy, but that he got eaten last night. I had the same thing. I tell you what, how about this? How about you go to sleep tonight and I'll watch over you? And then the next night, you let us go to sleep, you watch over us, and we come together.
Yes.
That is the definition of compassion. Let's work together to minimize or relieve your suffering. We have to do it to survive. It is a crisis.
So there's two aspects we haven't touched on quickly here now is you have to be vulnerable to admit you need this, to share that point of pain. You have to be open to saying, I can't do this alone.
Yes.
And that's a hard thing for some people to say, I need help.
Yes. And I'm in this moment, I'm weak, I'm stupid, I'm furious because I'm in ridiculous pain.
Yes.
The answer is I'm not Superman. I'm not. And I wish I was, but I'm not. And it's okay to be vulnerable. We need doctors and nurses to say the same thing. I'm not well. I need help.
Yes.
And get it, or your legacy is, how many people did you kill because you were mean, insensitive, and unkind? That's not the legacy you want. That's not why you got into healthcare. So be kind. 45 seconds maximum.
So, Lee, we're going to share out your website here. It's going to pop up on the screen, that little QR code. Make sure you scan the code, learn about it. But what are they going to find when they go to your website?
Well, they're going to see my 10 years since I was diagnosed. They're going to see some revealing of the different topics I speak about, the different audiences. They're going to see my TED Talk. They're going to see a bunch of speaking bits. It's a message that everybody needs to have. Compassion is what brought us together when we were on the verge of extinction in the days of the dinosaurs. It can heal a world that is so now conflicted and fighting and back and forth. And the only thing that can truly reverse and cure that anger and vitriol and violence is human connection. No joke. Scientifically proven, no joke. It's the only thing that will save us. So now or disaster. It's a choice. It's a choice.
Red pill, green pill. Lee, final question for you here today as we wind down for a great episode. But
thank you.
Movie studio, producer, that's some of the stuff that we all dream, the big job. Did you ever think that from the big job to the tragedy, that this passion project would be the biggest thing in your life? Did you ever imagine that?
Never in a million, trillion, zillion, how many years? No, forget about it. Not a chance in, not a chance in heck. Um, Nothing could, mind you, I was the healthiest guy in the world when I went into my ENT. I owned a $150 million too, building another 150 wards.
Living a Hollywood dream.
Yeah. This work that I'm doing right now, I get why doctors and nurses do what they do. When I see, and around my office, when I speak to people and I see that I've touched their hearts, and I see that they've remembered why they got into healthcare, and I've gotten them to take a challenge and be just a little bit more compassionate every day to revive that within them. And they write me a note saying, Lee, you are a healer's healer. That was the most profound compliment I've ever gotten in anything I've ever done in my life. And the fact that I can help heal my healers so they can be better healers with their patients, colleagues, and friends and family.
From patient to the healer for the healers. Yeah. That's a cool journey.
Yeah. I'm lucky to be alive, and I am the most fortunate human on the face of the planet to be able to do what I'm doing. I love my work. I love my audiences. I just want people to be in less pain.
Lee Tomlinson, thanks for being a guest tonight on Rock the Stage. It's been marvelous, my friend. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, my extraordinary pleasure, Rich. I appreciate it very much, you're having me. Thank you.
That's going to do it for tonight's edition of Rock the Stage Show. But again, remember, we've done a couple on compassion, and this topic is rising up and rising up. More and more people are wanting to be touched, to be felt, to be healed, to be whole, to be listened to. People are tired of just being blown off. Yeah. And there are organizations rising up in different categories, like what Lee's talking about here tonight. Yeah. As we start off 2025, as we begin a new year, take a breath, take a step, and be more compassionate. Yeah. And believe me, you will make an impact in your own world, your own family, your own society. Maybe not the way Lee is, but you're going to have your own impact by leading out with compassion. That's going to do it for Rock the Stage this week. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Another amazing conversation. You never know. An author, director, a singer, you never know who's going to show up on Rock the Stage. We'll see you here, 7 p.m. Sunday nights. Have a great week.
Welcome to the Rock the Stage Show. Each week, international media expert Rich Bontrager has in-depth and personal conversations with celebrities, top leaders, authors, speakers, and media professionals. Now, from the Rock the Stage studios, here's your host, The Trigger, Rich Bontrager.
Welcome back. Rock the Stage Show, Sunday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're here for another great conversation. Always unscripted, highly informative, and a lot of fun. We have the actors, directors, producers, we have the artists, and today we're going to get back into the author space once again. You know, the thing about the authors is it's kind of like public speakers, and we're going to probably overlap some of that conversation tonight anyways, but public speaking is one of the biggest fears in all the world. People are afraid of it. And I'm sure you've heard the joke about just think of everybody being naked. All right. It doesn't work. Believe me, I've tried it. It's a bad image. You don't want to do that. But public speaking is one of the toughest things for people to overcome the fear, getting on mic, presenting themselves. I think the second biggest fear might be being an author, writing your book, putting it to print, putting those thoughts in your head, and then getting it out there, because the fear is, what if nobody likes it? I think we're going to talk about some of that, and also some of the other things, those new trends, changes that have happened in the place of authorship, and we're going to get into that conversation here tonight. Kathy Fajak is the business book strategist who works with thought leaders and professionals who want to write a book as a business tool. She's the author of 12 different books, a member of the National Speakers Association, and her latest book, Writer's Crisis, is out now. You're going to want to learn about that a little bit today. Welcome to Rock the Stage Show, Kathy Fajak. Here she is. Great to see you.